Hello everybody and welcome to the GMS Magazine channel. I am Paco Garcia, your host, and this is the board game review room. I bring you today Factory 42, a review of this game, which is the latest offering of Dragon Dawn Productions, one of my favorite companies that have brought out some fantastic games like Black Hat, They're Winning, or Perdition's Mouth, Abyssal Rift. In Factory 42, though, they've gone full Euro in a worker placement game with a tiny little bit of cooperative mechanics thrown onto it, in which the players are factory workers, dwarves to be precise, in a factory where the government is going to tell them what to create every round, and they're going to have to gather the necessary resources in order to fulfill those orders, which in turn is going to give them the victory points that will allow them to win the game. Yes, it sounds easier than it actually is, to be honest with you. Firstly, let's take a look at what the components are going to be like. As I said at the beginning of the video, this is a pre-production copy, so I don't have all the components, and the components I have are not necessarily going to be final. That doesn't bother me at all, because they already look pretty good and very, very polished. So the final edition, it's just going to be fantastic. The rules are huge, very well laid out, and actually rather well explained. There were a couple of niggles here and there with a couple of tiny missing things that I've already spoken to the company about, and they can be sorted out quite easily. There is nothing particularly wrong with it. And to be honest, for such a complex game, the rules are next to nothing. I mean, you have 11, 12 pages of rules, which is next to nothing. And that I really like. The graphic design is absolutely gorgeous. It's very much in keep with the theme, which is like a very authoritarian, oppressive sort of regime controlling these factories. The board is double-sided, and it has a lot of options to go into them, and we also have 4 different player boards. Well, they're the same, but one each, with again 2-sided, one for the normal and one for the advanced play mode, and we have 5 different decks of cards. We get the market, which is going to give us what the purchase and sale value of each one of the resources is. We have the government orders, which is going to tell us at the beginning of every round what is it that we should be aiming to make. We have commissions, which is going to give us a little bit extra as to what we can do or not, and there are plenty of things that we can do. There are events which will affect everybody around the table, and usually not in a particularly positively way. And then we have some meddling elves that are going to be asking us to create some inventions for them, which could distract us from the government orders, but also may be able to pay a lot more, so our strategy can vary from one to the other. Those are going to be the commissions, and the elves are for the advanced mode only. We also get 6 different cute little cards, and that's where our resources are going to go into, so then they can be spread to the player boards, which is where we can use them to research or to build whatever it is we want to build for the government. There are plenty of tokens, and even though I don't have them on the table, but there are going to be over 160 cubes in 3 different sizes that are going to represent our resources, and a bunch of meeples. Depending on how many players are going to be playing the game, it's going to be between 6 and 7 per player. What you can see here, that is not a dice tower. It might look like it, but it isn't. This is a rather clever little contraption that we're going to throw the resources in, and some of those resources are going to get stuck. So what we see here, that is what we have to play with. But that's not necessarily what we throw there, and may not even be what we need. So we're going to be very clever. Luckily, that becomes somewhat softened because at some point we could negotiate with other players and trade resources, which at some point is going to be very, very necessary. The other element of cooperation in the game is the steam. You cannot create anything without the necessary steam power to do it. And in order to do it, you have to put your meeples where it matters to create the steam. Now that steam is going to be used. So every time that you create a construction, it's going to come down. So if another player advances it, then you could be in trouble. If you wait for everybody to make steam for you, then you may not be able to negotiate. So at some point, you're going to have to discuss when you place your workers, how and where you're going to put them. And that's how the game plays. Every round, players are going to go in turn, placing their meeples on the right places, on the places they choose to on the board. And each one of these places is going to have an effect, whether it is collecting goods, whether it is getting the carts to put the goods in them, whether it is to throw and deliver the carts to their players, to negotiate, to go for a commission. There's an awful lot to think about. There are 12 different options in the advanced mode, and 12 is a lot. It really is a lot. Once all the meeples have been placed, then they will get resolved in order. So if you go first in something that you want to get some resources from, the next player is going to is going to be able to use whatever you leave behind. So at some point, you're going to want to be there first. But if you're there first, then somebody else is going to be first someplace else. So thinking carefully is going to be very, very necessary. The game plays very well. We played it at 2 players, and at 2 players is kind of a solitary multiplayer, and there's very little player interaction because, we're just doing our own thing. There's plenty of resources for everybody. At 3 players, though, we reckon this is going to be very cutthroat. And I like that. This is what this game is meant to be. This game is very, very competitive, and we like that a ton. At 4 players, the only thing you're going to have to be a little bit careful is that it may become a bit long because there's so many choices to take. This game can invite a little bit of analysis paralysis, so you have to be careful. Is this fun to play? Yes. And we're very much looking forward to playing it at 3 players, because this is really good fun. This is very, very thinky. But the great thing about this game is how everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. And the unpredictable aspect of the game, with both the dice tower and the markets, that every round is going to be slightly different, it's kind of fun. We really enjoyed that a lot. So, do I recommend this? If you like Eurogames, heavy Eurogames, this is definitely for you. This is a department from the company, but they've done it really well. It just feels so good. And because the mechanisms and the mechanics themselves are not hard at all to grasp. Literally, what I just explained, that's all you need to know in order to play. You just need to understand exactly what everything does. But that's it. It can be explained very easily and very quickly. And for me, that is paramount. So take a look at this if you want a worker placement game with a tiny little bit of cooperation thrown onto it and a lot of very cutthroat competition. Highly, highly recommended. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and if you have already played this game or if you have any questions, by all means, do let me know. I would love to answer them for you. But until the next time, thank you very much indeed for being there. It is truly appreciated, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.